A low subaquatic rumble echoes. An eye, the size of a dinner plate, opens slowly in amber light. Millions of years ago, in a world that no longer exists, this was the last thing many creatures saw. And it was no dinosaur. For over a century, our imagination has been captured by the giants of land, the thunder of tyrannosaurs, the shadow of sauropods. But the true titans of the Mesozoic never touched land. They swam. The largest was bigger than any dinosaur that ever lived. Its name will surprise you today. Hace 200 millones de años, the map of our Earth would be completely unrecognizable to modern human eyes. The continents were fused into a single restless mess, and warm, shallow seas flooded across what is now Europe. Warm seas spread across the American Midwest and Central Asia. These were not the cold oceans of today. They were sunlit, oxygen-rich, and impossibly alive. Coral reefs stretched for hundreds of kilometers beneath the surface. Ammonites drifted in silver clouds. Belemnites hunted like living torpedoes through the shimmering primeval waters shining above. Above them, a sky heavy with volcanic haze filtered the light into a permanent golden hour glow. This was un mundo que ya no existe, a lost realm whose scale is difficult to truly grasp. While the first dinosaurs were still small and cautious on land, the seas had already crowned their kings. The truth we rarely tell: during the entire age of dinosaurs, the biggest predators were never on ground. They were beneath the waves. The land was a stage, the ocean was the empire of true monsters. And the first monster rose from these warm shallows to claim its throne beneath the ancient sun. Its name was Ichthyosaurus, fish lizard, one of the oldest apex predators ever to rule the Mesozoic seas. At first glance, it looked almost familiar. The streamlined body of a dolphin, the vertical crescent tail of a shark, the powerful fluke of a tuna. But it was none of these creatures.
It was, in truth, a reptile, a creature whose ancestors had walked on land, then returned, generation by generation, to the water that made them. Ichthyosaurs breathed air. They gave birth to live young in the open sea. Their skin was smooth and dark, and their eyes were extraordinary. Some species carried eyes the size of dinner plates, larger than any animal known. The largest eyes ever measured in the entire history of the Earth. Eyes built for hunting in absolute darkness. La ciencia moderna revela that these creatures dove into depths that would instantly kill a modern whale today.
600 meters down, perhaps far deeper, into the black abyssal layer where sunlight itself forgets to travel. There, in the crushing cold, they hunted giant squid the length of a man. Silent, patient, invisible. For countless millions of years, the ichthyosaurs ruled the seas, and they grew larger, slowly, steadily, terribly. But something far greater was already stalking them, hidden within the deepest, most patient shadows of evolution itself. Because the Mesozoic ocean was never one single predator's kingdom. It was a parade of endless, escalating horrors, each creature stranger than the last. As the Triassic gave way to the Jurassic, new hunters emerged everywhere, and the ancient arms race began in earnest. First came plesiosaurs, a creature so strange, scientists refused belief. When its ancient bones were first assembled together, scientists simply could not accept them. A barrel-shaped body of muscle, 4 enormous paddle-like flippers, and a neck so long it seemed to belong to another animal entirely. A whip of vertebrae that could snake through a school of fish and take free at once, before the survivors even realized they were dying. The plesiosaur was an ambush hunter, patient, coiled, deliberate. Then came something faster, something crueler. The mosasaurs arrived, and the ancient seas would never feel safe again. Imagine a crocodile the size of a school bus, sheathed in the muscle of a great white shark. With a tail engineered for pure acceleration, Mosasaurus of Manny could reach 17 meters through the sunlit turquoise water. Its jaws unhinged like a snake's. A second row of teeth in the roof of its mouth waited. That hidden row pulled struggling prey inward, deeper and deeper still, until swallowing became utterly and terribly inevitable. And then, in the deep water, the true crushers arrived. The pliosaurs, colossal-headed relatives of the plesiosaurs. Short-necked and impossibly dense, they were built like living battering rams, cutting through the cold Mesozoic abyss. Kronosaurus queenslandicus wielded a skull more than 2 meters long, packed with conical teeth designed for one purpose: to shatter bone, to puncture the shells of ancient sea turtles gliding through the drifting amber currents, to split the rib cages of other marine reptiles in a single crushing bite, ending the fight in seconds. Compared to these hunters, even Tyrannosaurus rex begins to look modest, a giant reduced to a distant shadow. A T-Rex measured around 12 meters from snout to tail. A large mosasaur exceeded that length easily. A pliosaur weighed considerably more. And these were only the middle chapters of the ocean's long, savage story.
The sea's arms race intensified decade after decade, epoch after epoch, evolution sharpening every tooth and every tail. Yet none of them matched the shadow rising next, a silhouette larger than anything the deep had ever hidden. Because in the cold northern waters of what is now British Columbia, in a rock formation called the Pardonet, a single bone was found, then another, then a spine, then a jaw emerging slowly from the ancient rock. And when the paleontologists finally understood what they were assembling, they had to sit down in stunned silence. The creature was called Shonisaurus sicaniensis, a late ichthyosaur, a relative of early sea reptiles but grown monstrous. When fully reconstructed, this animal measured more than 21 meters from snout to tail, longer than a city bus, longer than a humpback whale, longer than any land dinosaur ever catalogued, longer than the largest diplodocus recorded, larger than most sauropods that once shook the Jurassic plains.
Its vertebrae were larger than a human torso. Its ribs, when laid across a laboratory floor, dwarfed the researchers standing beside them in stunned silence. Its slender skull contained the machinery of an apex hunter, cone-shaped teeth in the young, marking early predation. Smoother crushing surfaces in the old suggested a life that shifted, perhaps toward filter feeding or deep water ambush. Shonisaurus swam through late Triassic seas roughly 210 million years ago, gliding through warm equatorial water. It moved in small pods, surfacing to breathe, then descending into darkness. It had no true competitor anywhere. Nothing else in the ocean or on the land matched its colossal scale across the entire Mesozoic era. For decades, Shonisaurus held the crown as the largest marine reptile and predator ever discovered on Earth. But an even bigger rival now emerges. In 2024, a discovery on the Somerset coast rewrote everything. A father-daughter fossil hunting team walked along muddy beach near the English village of Blue Anchor together. She was 11 years old. Her name was Ruby Reynolds, and something in the wet stone caught her eye. A chunk of dark bone, curved, enormous, unmistakably ancient. Something that did not belong on any ordinary shore. What she had found was a fragment of a jaw, matched with another bone discovered nearby years earlier. Paleontologists realized they were looking at a new species, Ichthyotitan severnensis, the giant fish lizard of the Severn. Based on comparisons with related species, Ichthyotitan is estimated at 25 meters in length. 25 meters! That is roughly the length of a modern blue whale, the largest animal ever known to have existed. A creature once believed to have no rival anywhere across all of geological time, until this recent discovery. Here, in the mud of an English shoreline, was evidence of a reptile that matched the blue whale. a reptile older than any dinosaur giant, ruling the late Triassic oceans 202 million years ago. Ichthyotitan was not fast. It did not need to be. Its size alone made it entirely untouchable. Nothing hunted it, nothing challenged it. It moved through warm Triassic seas the way a cathedral drifts through fog. Slow, silent, absolute. The largest marine reptile ever known to science, and one of history's greatest predators. But how could such a colossus vanish completely? The answer lies in stone, ash, and ancient seawater. Approximately 201 million years ago, the world ended for the first time in dinosaur history. Not with an asteroid, not with a winter, but with fire rising from beneath the ancient ground. The supercontinent Pangaea split apart. Vast cracks tore across what is now the Atlantic, spilling lava beyond imagining. This cataclysm, the Central Atlantic Magmatic Province, released volcanic gas for hundreds of thousands of relentless years. Carbon dioxide flooded the atmosphere. Temperatures climbed relentlessly. The warm, shallow, teeming Mesozoic oceans began to change forever. The chemistry of the water shifted. Acidification crept through the seas. Delicate coral reef architecture began to dissolve. Shelled creatures, ammonites, mollusks, plankton, struggled to build their bodies. The base of the food web cracked. When the base of the food web cracks, the giants standing above it are always the first to fall. Ichthyotitan, feeding on vast prey to fuel its enormous body, faced an ocean no longer producing enough food. Shonisaurus faded. The great pliosaurs of that early age vanished. Colossal ichthyosaurs, refined over millions of years, disappeared.
This was the end Triassic mass extinction, one of the 5 great dyings in the history of our world. The seas fell silent, the titans starved. When the Jurassic dawned, new marine reptiles inherited an empty throne. Smaller, faster, hungrier. But the true giants, the whale-sized ichthyosaurs, were gone. Their bones sank into the mud. The mud became stone. The stone waited, patient, for 200 million years for a child on a beach. That child would notice, and even now, fossils still whisper of survivors from the world we thought was lost. Our understanding of these creatures is only beginning. Modern paleontology is not dusty, it is a laboratory of radiation. CT scanners now peer inside fossilized skulls, revealing the delicate shape of ancient brains long turned to stone.
Isotope analysis reads the chemistry of a single tooth to reconstruct a diet, a migration, a hunting depth. Micro-CT scans uncover unborn embryos still curled inside pregnant ichthyosaurs, frozen mid-birth deep within a yielding Jurassic stone. The secrets of these animals surrender slowly. We now know some ichthyosaurs were warm-blooded, thriving in cold oceans. They dove into crushing pressure zones deep enough to collapse a human lung without hesitation or apparent injury. Their eyes carried a specialized bony sclerotic ring, reinforcing the eyeball against the crushing dark of the abyss. They gave live birth tail first, like modern dolphins, to prevent their vulnerable newborns from drowning at first breath. And ichthyotitan is almost certainly not the final word. The English fragments represent only a partial tantalizing jaw. The complete animal has never been found. Somewhere in a cliff eroding into the sea, larger bones wait. In a hillside not yet split by a passing storm, paleontologists on 3 continents actively search for them. One coastline may hide the next titan. And when we imagine it, we must imagine what came after. Because the ocean's throne did not stay empty for long. After the ichthyosaurs vanished, plesiosaurs and mosasaurs rose. When they too fell at the Cretaceous' end, mammals returned, and something ancient and hungry began to grow. In the Miocene seas 10 million years ago, one whale ruled the waters, Leviathan melvillei, hunter of other whales. A sperm whale with teeth 36 centimeters long, sharp enough to shear through the flesh of its own kind. Beside it swam a shark whose name still stops conversations, Megalodon, 18 meters long and 50 tons heavy. A bite force strong enough to crush a whale skull in one silent closing of the jaws. The ocean's throne changes hands, and each new ruler grows stranger than the last, more terrible than before.
This is Un Mundo Perdido, a lost world stacked in layers of stone beneath our own feet. The next monster waits in darker waters. If you have traveled this abyss with us, the journey only begins. Suscríbete para continuar el viaje a un mundo que ya no existe. Activa la campana para el próximo capítulo. The next episode enters the black trenches where Leviathan and Megalodon once hunted